All right. Looks like we're in the place. Figured I'd give y'all a live stream today because I didn't do a video on Friday. And I have a little time to spare in between the things that I have planned for today. So here I am. Topic of the discussion is, what is the topic of the discussion? What she will submit to. I just made the title, isn't that funny? Maybe I should start taking notes or something. So I'm gonna give it a minute, see if anybody comes in. If anybody doesn't, that's fine as well. I can go ahead and do the video like I would normally do anyways. So in the meantime, we'll talk about something else, I guess. Uh, so I guess I can run over quickly uh, where I've been and what I've been up to. I detailed it somewhat in my last videos, but I didn't go over it that much. But I've been mostly focusing on school. I did alter my life up for a period of time there. I had to take a hiatus from a few things, and I seen it was fit. But now I'm back on things, and I'm here to give you guys a little bit more of my knowledge, the things I understand, my perspective, wisdom, and such, etc. But it ended up coming to a head where I needed to change a few things in my own life because they weren't going exactly in the direction that I wanted to. So I had to take a step back and address those things. So that's where I've been this whole entire time. Everything's been fine. I haven't had any family issues or anything major change in my life. It was just that I made a decision that I wanted to reevaluate the things that I wanted to share with you guys and the things that I had to learn about myself. So that's where I've been mostly. I can see they switched StreamYards up since the last time I've used it, but yeah, I don't even know how to do a lot of stuff on here. Hopefully, the more I use it, the more I'll become accustomed to using it. Like I don't even know where to go to invite anyone up for a link or something like that. I have no idea. But anyways, I guess I'll do more research on it at a later time. But give it a few more minutes, see if anybody comes in. If people don't, oh well, like I said, we'll keep it moving, definitely. I'm sure y'all will catch the video on the back end. But it's been a pretty chill day today. It's been roughly about 70 degrees. I love it. Going to get out there, do a few things, and enjoy my day. But I figured I'd give you guys a live stream real quick since I had the time. Couldn't think of anything else better that I could be doing, so here I am. But anyways, on to the topic. What will she submit to? What can you give her that she will submit to? I run across this topic a lot uh, when dealing with the manosphere. You know, every room that we go into, every video that we discuss, it has something to do with either the black community or it has something to do with women and their behavior, where men should be, this and that. But we kind of normally boil this down to uh, indifference, or not an indifference, I guess, but a difference in how our women treat us versus how they treat other people, versus how they view themselves, things like that. But I've been dealing with women for a long time. Surprise, surprise. I've been dealing with women for a long time, and one of the things that I've learned about women is that they always look for something to submit to. That's just That's just their nature. They always look for it. Now, the society has groomed them to submit to society, but that's not their natural standings. While they are more herd creatures than men are, and they look for the validation of the herd, they aren't really supposed to submit directly to the herd as such as they are today, which we see a lot. They submit to the herd. While every woman screams how individual they are, they become a collective because they're all screaming the same thing, how individual they are. The irony. But what she will submit to. I don't think this will be a long drawn out discussion. I'm not going to do like an hour long thing. Probably be like 10, 15 minutes. But what she will submit to. Well, first you have to understand women in the first place. Well, before you even get to that point, first you have to understand yourself as a man. My opinion. That's the first thing that you should do. A lot of men claim that they understand their masculinity and that they know exactly what it is, but yet I see them wielding it incorrectly. It's almost like someone who is given a utensil to use to eat, like a spoon or something, and they're holding it in the middle lengthwise. Not how we normally hold spoons, but they're holding it very incorrectly, and that's kind of how I view some of the men who say that they know how to wield their masculinity correctly. When I see you hold it, I can tell that you don't know how to wield it correctly. That's what I get to, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all go through it. We all been through it. No man can wield his masculinity correctly every single time that he needs to or has to in his life. That's impossible. That's the reason why we come up with the principles. That's exactly how we come up with the principles, because we go through the experiences of how we should wield our masculinity correctly. But anyways, um, so learning yourself is the first thing that's very important, because without learning yourself, nothing else outside of you will make sense according to what the reality of it is. That should go without saying, I guess, but some people don't know that. So learning yourself first is the first agenda. And the reason why that's most important is because then you know how to, like I said, will your masculinity according to what women are looking for and what women will submit to. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to cultivate yourself into the desirability of women. No, 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 no. Never do that, because then you'll be false and unrealistic to yourself. What you do is you cultivate your masculinity according to you, and they fall in line with it. That's how it's supposed to go. Because the minute it's almost like, you want to be around people who you can be yourself with. That, once again, that's something that goes without saying. But that's the point that you want to get to with your masculinity. You want to be who you are, who you need to be, who you want to be, who you desire to be in your masculine form around anybody. And that will draw the women that are meant for you. Because if you try to cultivate yourself into a man who is fixated around a woman's desires, then you'll constantly find yourself in chaos, because you will be constantly changing that, right? And that's not how masculinity moves. You're wielding it incorrectly at that point. But the second part of it is you have to understand women. I know that's a tall order. I know that is a lot to request of you, and I'm not saying that in a cynical way. I know it is. It's a tall thing to understand, but that's where it starts. When you start to figure out exactly what she will submit to, what a woman wants and desires. Once again, don't cultivate yourself behind that, but you will be able to use your masculinity to weed certain women out, because your masculinity should be a fixed thing. It shouldn't be a thing that alternates all the time. Um, it's slow to move, but it does move. It should be slow to moving. But what she wants is something to submit to. Once again, once you start to understand how a woman's nature is set up, you will start to see that her desire is in the external. Her what she will submit to is in the external. Women rarely submit to themselves. That sounds strange though, right? But it's true. Women rarely submit to themselves because they know what they should be doing. This is the reason why they are low in the ability to create principality for themselves, because they don't have the ability to submit to themselves at the same level that men do. That's why we have the ability of discipline, and that's why they have been given the ability of punishment. Most part, men have the ability to punish as well, but women have the ability to practice discipline as well, but it's not to the same degrees. It's varying based on if you're a man or if you're a woman, if you're masculine or if you're feminine, because those things play an integral role in opposition, or not opposition, but in concert with each other. So a woman cannot submit to herself, right? So she looks for something to submit to. Men, we don't look to submit to anything. We don't, that's not, we're not on the prowl to look to submit to anything, because we submit to ourselves. Only thing that we should submit to outside of ourselves, is my belief, is God. That's the only thing. Everything else you should look to yourself to submit to, because that's how discipline is created. Once again, that is our niche in this world, the ability to create discipline for ourselves. So if a woman is looking for something. She's always looking for something. And you have this ability to give discipline. That is a lining up of what she should be receiving. Because that is the puzzle piece that goes together, in my opinion. It's my opinion. This is how I see it. This is how I've interpreted all my life. But when you start to understand that she is looking for something, you have to also account for her her programming that she already has, because women, if you met them at 25, 30, whatever, they're going to have some programming. um, Even if you were high school sweethearts, they're going to have some level of programming, and this programming comes from the social structure and their family structure as well, and even some trauma at times. So you cannot. There's no such thing as getting a woman that has a blank slate that you can just input things into. Now, I kind of view women as hardware and computers, software as well at times. Um, and when you buy a computer, they normally have extra slots for certain things if you didn't get it loaded all the way out. Like you can have a 8 memory drive, or excuse me, a 8 megabyte RAM, 8 megabytes of RAM on your computer. But usually there's another slot where you can put another eight. There's a 16. And that that which I'm explaining is how you meet a woman when she's younger. She has those extra slots that have not been filled up yet. Um, but as she gets older, those slots become less and less, less and less, less and less. And a lot of them are corrupted, unfortunately. So you have to take them out and put new ones in. But a woman is always looking to fill those slots. Sometimes she's looking to exchange those slots, or excuse me, exchange what's in those slots for something else. But once again, women do not understand exactly what they're looking for, because they don't have it within them to have a clear cut desire, because they cannot submit to themselves. So they don't have a conversation with themselves on the level that men do, so much so that they know exactly what they want and exactly how it would play out in their lives. They have no idea of this. And how I know this is from talking to many, 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 many of women, and finally getting them to say that they don't know what they want. When you ask questions about maybe 5 layers down into their stance, you'll see that it doesn't stand up very well, according to what they first said. And once again, it just comes out that they don't know. Um, but, anyways, once you figure out that a woman has a specific desire or has a desire, but she doesn't know what it is, it's then your job to assess where she can fit in your life, if she can fit in your life. Those are the questions that you should be asking yourself. But if you can figure out that what you have to offer fits the slots that she wants to fulfill, whether she knows that or not, because it's your job to be able to see these things. But once you figure that out and you figure out that what you have to offer is something that she can use, then you start to formulate a a plan on showing her this, because she doesn't know a lot of times, right? Once again, I don't want to make it seem like women are completely oblivious and they have no idea, no clue about life. But if you're a man listening to this and you're a man who wields masculinity correctly, you can see the confusion on women compared to the non-confusion that you have in your own life, based on your ability to wield masculinity and submit to yourself, thus creating discipline, and her ability not to do that. You can see the difference in the chaos, and the non-chaos, and the structure that you have versus the structure that she does not have. You can clearly see those things. But um, what a woman will submit to ranges in a lot of things. It ranges. I've seen women submit to cults. I've seen women submit to jobs. I've seen women submit to dysfunction. I've seen women submit to drugs. I've seen women submit to a lot of things. They submit to a lot of things. Men, on the other hand, we do not. We don't submit to a lot of things. Most things that we do, we will submit to something that grows our own desire, meaning that we can come together as a community of men and accomplish a goal that we all have in mind for the benefit for our desire, individual desire. We've done this plenty of times. I mean, the military, I mean, a lot of the wars, invasion of countries, mostly men have done these things, so we have the ability to submit, but it has to be to our benefit and our clear desire. And it has to elicit the outcome that we want, because we're not going to sacrifice otherwise. But, anyways, what I've learned about this dynamic of men being able to create discipline within themselves and women always seeking that discipline because that's what they're looking for. That's the whole definition behind submission. Submission is something that you that you are disciplined behind, meaning that this always involves a higher and lesser power, or a higher and lesser authority, meaning that there is always a teacher and subordinate type of relationship, um, in the dynamic of submission. You cannot submit to something that you can submit to something that doesn't have more power to you, but the only reason why anyone would submit to something that has something, that appears to have something, have less power than them, is because they believe that it does. It's not always a tangible thing that makes sense. I mean, we see this all the time. I can make this same argument with women in their jobs. Like, they know they can quit their job all the time, but the job offers them something, because they have ultimate authority over them working this job or not, because it's a choice. That is the ultimate power. No job can make you work that job if you do not want to work that job, at least here in America, anyways. So you have the ultimate power in that regard, but you view that entity as having something that you want from it, thus you submit. That's how women operate in regards to submission. They always view it as they're going to get something back that is worth more than what they're given. They're never going, no woman, hear me out, hear me clearly. No woman is going to submit to something that she does not view a greater benefit in than what she's giving out. Period. Period. Yeah, I got that. You understand? Okay. So you have to create this atmosphere where you're showing her this product that you have, but you have to have a product. Now, a lot of men, this is where we get into the high value thing, and I don't necessarily like using that word because the things that this world considers high value are not, my opinion. The things that this world sees as super duper important are really not, in my opinion. For the most part, there are some things that are very important, but for the most part, not so much so. Hold on, I got a question. So women want to submit to proper correction in general. Yeah, they well, once again, they don't want to see that's the thing. It gets muddied sometimes because a woman. I mean, for instance, if you look at the history between the German Nazis and the people, the Jews over there, they had women who were willingly wanting to work for the Nazis, even though they know that they were creating all these bad things. They were doing all these bad things. So a woman, what you have to understand about that dynamic is that a woman, once again, will not submit to something who she puts in a lot of work for and gets little back for. So she was either convinced or shown or manipulated, regardless of what, to doing things that she saw a benefit for, that she was going to get a large benefit back in return for, more so than her output. That's the only time that a woman will willingly do something like that, whether it be good or bad. Um, and a lot of it necessarily doesn't have to do with correction. It's just if she's able to view a benefit greater than her output that matters. That's the only thing that really matters. It doesn't matter what it is, who it is, why it is. None of that matters. The only thing, once again, that matters is that she views it as a greater benefit than she is getting, than she is putting out. So, just want to make that clear. But that's the whole dynamic of this quagmire of women submitting to everything else but black men. For one, it is socialization that has convinced them, once again, that what they're doing is correct. No different than the women who work for the Nazi Germanys. Not to necessarily compare the two on a moral stand ground, but basically to show as an exhibit that a woman can get with something that is not the best thing morally. That's just what I'm showing. But what happens is, what's going on, Brother Truth? But what happens is these women, they will submit to everything else because of this socialization. They will be, because they have been taught for a long time, over and over again. I mean, we talk about slave slave plantation politics, and we talk about the daughters of the trade. We have all these books and histories that keep pointing to the same thing. My common saying is the truth is consistent, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the truth is is something that is morally right, or something like that. It means that it just is, meaning that it's something that is consistent, is truthfully consistent, not truthfully in the moral standards, but truthfully as in, yep, that exists, whether it be right or wrong. So I want to make that clear delineation in what I'm saying. But a woman will submit to everything but a black man, and we ask this question all the time. Why? Hold on, let me get this question. Brother True says, "How did you learn about women? What was your path?" I learned about women the hard way. I just I just woke up from a lot of things. Well, I can't say necessarily the hard way. I learned a lot of my lessons the hard way, but some of them I just learned from observing other people's problems. I looked at that, and I look for consistency, because once again I learn at a really before I can even articulate what I'm saying to you now. I learned it firsthand. not necessarily, well, not firsthand, but secondhand, from watching other people, that the truth is consistent. If I see that over and over again, that let's say, for example, I see that a woman gets pregnant and then she automatically puts her father or the fathers on child support, and I notice, because that's a common thing, for women to get pregnant. That's a common thing, first off. But if I see a secondary result, that being a man being put on child support, and I watch that over and over and over again, then I start to formulate that that is a truth, that the women of this demographic or this area will do that. So then I formulate a masculine response or masculine principle behind that, based on what I seen the outcome was according to the consistent truth. Get what I mean? But um, that's how I came to learn a lot of these things. A lot of observation and a lot of data collection mentally. A lot of watching. Um, it basically I was practicing the scientific method of observation before I even knew what it was. That's essentially what happened. But as far as what a woman will submit to, and that she will not submit to black men, a lot of people ask, well, why is it that she will not submit to you? And we come up with all these things that, she's this, she's that, she's masculine, she's this, part of the reason is due to the men. And once again, I'm not here to throw men on the barbecue. That's not what my channel is all about. But I have to be truthful about the consistency of what I see, and the facts of my own life, of how I came to uh, get women to submit. And it necessarily wasn't me getting them to submit; they chose that. But it was because of the the atmosphere that I created around me. But I'll get into that later. Um, in this same video, I'll get into that. But what I see, this is how I see it through my eyes. When I look at society and I look at black women, all I see is them being convinced that it's a better deal. That's all I see. Once again, if you go back to Nazi Germany, there were women by the thousands, hundreds of thousands probably, who were with the shit. They were with it. How? How were they with it? Because they were convinced by the society and the structure at the time of what Germany should represent. That's how. Even no matter how right or wrong it was, um, they were socialized into this. And what I'm saying is, this is what I've learned. I've learned that in order for any man, any entity to get a woman to submit, you have to be consistent, and you have to have a structure in place beforehand. Because if you look at, because what I'm telling you about is the consistency of what the truth is behind women's submission. This has nothing to do with demographic. It has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with any of that. Because if you look at the consistency, all those things are different. A black woman will submit to an Asian man because we've seen it. We've seen them go into these nail salons and them listen to the rules. They will submit to, Spanish men. They'll submit to white men. It has nothing to do with that. And I know people are going to fight back on that and say, well, it's because of the dysfunction that we have, this and that, and the history that we have with black women, that they have such a bad taste in their mouth, blah, blah, blah. You have to understand that that isn't a consequence of your existence. That's a consequence of societal programming. It has nothing to do with you. Um, so anyway, the way you get a woman to submit, in my opinion, this is from my experience, is that you have to have the same things that are the consequence of a woman's submission in the first place. Because if you look at these jobs, what do they have? What do they have? What do they have consistently? They have a schedule. They have a a they have a schedule. They have uh, a certain amount of days you're going to work. They have a certain amount of hours you're going to work. They have a rule book. They have um, uh, benefits. They have all these things. You have to model yourself behind on your own way. You have to model yourself behind these same structures that women submit to, that you see. Once again, it has nothing to do with color, because a job isn't a certain color or race. It's not. Um, United States isn't a certain color or race. It's not. The drug dealers that women submit to the really bad men that women submit to. What do they have in common with the jobs that women submit to? They have a structure. They have hours. They have, um, they have rules, regulations. They have all these things. Now you have to ask yourself, where did these things come from? They came from within that structure. And what I'm saying for you, men, is for you to be that structure. Now, I understand there's a second part to this. I understand that women will women can buy a car. And therefore, if you offer her a car and say this is the reason why you should submit, she can say, well, I can go get my own car. Same thing with a house. Same thing with any of these things that women could buy. So you have to go a step further down. You have to create something that gives them the ability to do these things, whether it be giving them the ability to make money, giving them the structure and the discipline in order to do what they need to do to make money. It can be anything, but essentially, you want to get ahead of the things. A woman will submit to money temporarily until she gets her own money and says, I don't need you anymore, therefore I don't submit. To get around that, you have to have something to offer a woman in the first place that she cannot buy, right? I mean, because a lot of these coaches, as far as telling women what to do in order to get a man, why will they pay so much money for that? Anybody ever stop and think? Well, the superficial reason that people will say is because, well, it's because they want to get a man, whatever, But let's dig a little bit deeper on that. She's buying this because she cannot do it for herself, right? Therefore, she submits to the process. And in her submission, she is willing to give up everything that she has in order to obtain what she desires, because she views that what she desires is more important than what she has to offer. That's the reason why she gives her money up. It's no different. This is the same template that plays over and over and over again. The whole reason why women do what they do is because they are getting something back in their belief, regardless of us. If us men say, well, you gave him $10 and all you got back was 5, they're happy. No matter how much it makes illogical sense to us. In her emotions, that $5 bill that came from Usher meant more than that $10 bill that came from Joe Schmo, the bank. You see what I'm saying? It's the sentiment, it's the emotion behind it, it's her perspective behind it that decides whether or not something is valuable or not. This is the same reason why she will not submit to you, black man. It's because she has been conditioned by society not to. Not to. I witnessed this over and over again. If you look very closely at the society, you can see this. You can see this. So it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you. Do not take it personal. What you have to do is, once again, is template yourself and template your ability. Well, you don't even necessarily have to do that, because a lot of these structures and a lot of these things came from masculinity. That's the reason why she submits to them in the first place, because they are offshoot and production of masculinity. So you don't necessarily have to template yourself, but if you need a pick me up, you can definitely, or you need some ideas, you can definitely resource those things that you see women submit to and ask, well, what are they giving them that I'm not giving them? It's a reason why they will submit and to them, but not me. And this is not to contrast yourself and say, oh, well, screw them and, this and that, and to say that this is better than you. This is just for you to pick up some of the ideas of how you can cultivate your own masculinity in such a way that you become this structure that women submits to. You become this output that women submits to. So it isn't it, and the reason why you do that is, once again, not to steal ideas, but to understand that that exists in yourself and that it needs to be brought out. It's already there. Believe me, your ability to create yourself into a man that a woman submits to is already there, because the society was created by who? Man. And a woman submits to it. So that means that you have the ability to create yourself into a structure in which a woman submits to. The third portion of this is what I was getting into before, about how a woman um, can can turn on you in regards to what she submits to. We have the saying in the manosphere that don't lead with your money. Why? Why do we have that saying? We have that saying because money can't buy everything, first off. And secondly, because that shows a sign of weakness, that you don't have anything to offer else but money. So that's what you lead with. Every when you're playing spades, any of my black people out there, when you're playing spades, you lead with your best card. You don't, you lead with your, not your best card, but necessarily, you don't lead with a joker unless you want to. But you lead with something that you think is the best move to make, because that is your strongest ability to getting you the most books. That's what you believe. And if you think that money is your thing, you're a weak player. Off top. Um, that's the way I view it anyway. It's the same as the rest of the manosphere. But anyways, um, when you, the third reason is because eventually that woman will come into some money. Probably, she probably will come into some money, or she'll just hop to another dude who has more money than you, right? So you lose on all three of those fronts. So you never want to lead with your money. Um, what I'm getting to here is that all these things that men are bringing up is right. Like I said, that's the reason why I don't like the high value thing. All these things that men are bringing up in regards to um, what you should be offering to women are all damn near superficial. Everything on this earth that is superficial can be replaced again. You know, we have limited resources, but um, most things, they can be replaced, including you. If you make yourself a man based off superficial, that can be replaced. Your car can be replaced. That home you offer can be replaced. That money you give her can be replaced. All that stuff can be replaced. Now, a lot of people will say, and this is the same rule that applies. Once again, keep in mind that a woman will give something up of her own that she views as less than what she will get back in return every single time. It doesn't matter what it is, how much it is, where it comes from, either. Is what she understands about it and what she believes about it. Keep that in mind. So when you get to an area where you start to wonder, like I said, well, what does this woman want? What does that woman want? There's always consistencies, no matter the woman. That's one thing you have to understand too. Remember, I said earlier in the stream, if you were here, that women scream about how different they are. Every woman I've dealt with have screamed this, but due to the fact that they're screaming the same thing, that shows how alike they are. That's how I see it. So when you're asking about what does this woman want or versus that woman want, don't even concern yourself with it. Why? Because they generally all will do the same thing. They will give up something for that they have for something that they view as more important every single time. That's all you need to be concerned about. Now, let's go back to the job thing. So, a woman has the ultimate authority to say, I'll quit this job, if X, Y, and Z doesn't happen or whatever. She has that right. She has that authority. Even if a woman submits to you, she still has that same authority and right. And people would say that's counterintuitive type of thing, but it's inherent in the ability to with the ability to submit. You also have the same ability not to submit. They're equally powerful. But anyways, um, what you want to do as a man to well, hold on, let me explain the job thing again. So the job, they offer women money, they offer them consistency, they offer them rules, they offer them all these things, um, that they can get with a job, right? So why would a woman quit that job? Because she doesn't view that job as equally or more, um, better than what she's giving. That's why. Simply put, we don't need to go deep into that. But the reason why I bring that up is because that job is many. If that was the only, if let's say that the only job, let's say that a carpenter, let's go to a fantasy world real quick. Let's say that a carpenter, there is only one carpentry job in the whole city, and that's the only job available. And she said, "Well, I don't really want to be a carpenter, but I kind of need money, so she'll do what she needs to do, right?" If that was the only job that was going to be available for the next 10 years, do you think she would quit that job? If there was no other way to get money, um, whether it be legal or illegally, you think she's going to turn away that only opportunity? If her desire is consistent about having money, hell no, she's not. Hell no, she's not. That brings me to my point that you as a man, you need to cultivate yourself so much so that you have something that she cannot buy anywhere else. That's how you that's how you consistently get submission out of a woman. You have to have a product in your masculinity that she cannot get anywhere else. You know how many women I've dealt with, who have told me subsequently to making the decision, whether it be ill advised or not, to separate themselves from me, who consequently told me that they made a bad decision, and it was based off emotion. I understand that. The emotions will cause a woman to do something very irrational. So don't discount that. I'm not telling you that just because you have the only product that she'll never make that decision. No, her emotions come first. So do not discount that. I want to make that clear. But in the rational sense, in the more emotionally rational sense, a woman will choose to be with a man who has something to offer that she cannot get anywhere else. Period. Why do you think these women put up with so much stuff? Why? Why do you think these women, let's go with drug choice, weed. Why do you think women stick with weed and don't go to any other drug? For the most part, for the true weed heads out there, why do you think that is? It's because the type of feeling and the ritualistic abilities that they have behind preparing weed, and the culture, they can't get that anywhere else. There's no culture of heroin addicts, in regards to public acceptance anyways. They can't get that anywhere else. They can't get that same high. They can't get that same feeling, that euphoria that they get from smoking weed. No differently than, taking it for pain. You can take opioids or you can do weed sometimes for some conditions. A lot of people choose to do weed. Why? Because the opioid has more disadvantages than the weed does. And you can get addicted to it. Same thing. It's because the trade off is a whole lot better. That's the reason why they will consistently do these things. It's because it offers something that you cannot get anywhere else. That's the reason why the weed business is a multi-billion-dollar business right now. Because you cannot get this same type of euphoria response, condition solving, all these attributes from any other thing. It's no differently. So they submit to smoking weed, whether you be male or female. No, that's how it works. But anyways, I hope I make that clear, and I hope that all this makes sense. I like to try to be as transparent as I can about this. But this has come from my understanding. And many men will say, "Ah, that makes sense," or they might say, "I understand that already." But nobody articulated that to me. I get that a lot. So even though I may be saying something you already know, at least you get the message reconfirmed. Well, let's see. We got another question here from Red Star 7311. Why do I not get any notifications for this channel? I have no idea. I don't know. What I normally do for my notifications, if I'm looking for a specific channel, I'll go to the channel, click it on, or click it off, unsubscribe, and then resubscribe, and then click on notifications again. I think that probably should solve it. That has for me in the past. So you may want to give that a try. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. For you, those of you who missed the playback, or missed the live stream rather, the playback will be here. But yeah, if you guys got any questions, let me know. I'll give it a couple seconds. I'm gonna have a Reese cup while I wait. But I'll tell you a little story. This is how I know that social programming. You can still put your questions up if you have it, and I'll stop what I have to say. But this is how you know that social programming has a major hold on women. So I was talking to my submissive yesterday. So my water heater recently went out, and she's listening. I'm sure she's probably like, "Why you tell that story?" She's gonna be like, "I like that you tell that story." It's probably what she's gonna say anyway. But anyway, so the water heater went out, and I had to grab a few parts. I ordered the what is it called? The gas regulator. That's what went out. Um, and I thought it was the thermocouple, but it wasn't. I bought one of those too. But anyway, so the gas regulator was $40. I went to Lowe's, got all the parts that I needed. I still have more parts to put on. Um, but before I did all this, I called a plumber and I asked. I said, "Hey, how much would it be for me to get this thermocouple that I've already have in person put on?" Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I really don't like dealing with gas that much. I have before, but I don't like, I deal with so many hazardous things in my jobs. I do HVAC, so um, as a trade, I don't do it anymore, but it's one of my trades. Um, and I was like, dealing with electricity and gas, like, like that stuff can kill you. But anyway, I asked them out of pure laziness, I'll be honest. And I said, how much would it cost for me to get this put on? And he told me 220, and I was like, all right, well, thanks a lot. Have a good day. And I'm like, I'm not paying 220 for, because I did this stuff for a living. You know what I'm saying? I never really dealt with a water heater before, but I dealt with many things such as water heaters, or a home water heater. I've dealt with so many things like that, and I ended up just going to Lowe's, getting all the stuff. It was around about $90. I bought a whole bunch of extra stuff that I don't even need, so I probably can subtract like another $50 off of it when I take all the stuff back that I didn't even use. Um, so all together, that job cost me what, about $80 all together, plus my little labor, whatever, which is free to me. So it cost me about $80, and I have tools now that could I could later on use that will help me save more money. You know, so I look at it like that. And I did the job, got the hot water going, and she came home, and she gave me money. So there's another thing. So she gives me money every 2 weeks. She works a job. And she was like, I feel bad about giving you that money. And she didn't mean it in the way you think. She just felt like it was just a underlying feeling that she couldn't explain. So she didn't mean it with any intent of maliciousness or anything like that. Uh, and I said to her, I was like, so would you have rather gave that money to a white man? And she said, of course not. This is before we got home because I picked her up, and she didn't know that we had hot water yet. And we had not had hot water for a few days while I was waiting for the part. So she had been taking cold showers. So she appreciates hot water. So I ended up getting her home. And I asked her, I was like, would you have rather gave that money to a white man? And she said, no, of course not. And I said, well, why would you feel bad about giving me the money? And she said, well, because that's just how I felt, you know. And she went in the house. I was like, go check the water. And she's like, oh yeah, the hot water's back on, this and that, this and that. I was like, now, you want to know how much it costs? It would have cost if I had paid somebody else to do that, because I told her I did it myself. I was like, it would have cost $220. Now, the amount of money that she gave me was roughly about $220. And I told her, I was like, so if I would have gave that money to a plumber to do it, would you have been upset about it? And she said, kinda, but not really, because she understands that it needs to get done. And I said, well, how would you feel about giving me that $220 instead? And she said, oh, I would feel great about that. And I was like, well, that's essentially what you did. I was like, because I fixed it. I did this. I did all this work for less money, and then most of the money is probably going to be spent on her anyway, just like she knows. She knows that already. Um, but she then understood what I was getting at. That that she was charged by social programming to feel some type of way about giving me, a man, maybe a black man. I don't know. I'm not going to say that. But it could be a possibility in the social programming. You never know about the programs of women or what the underlying thing is. You never know exactly what it is. All you need to know is it needs to go because it doesn't fit with the program that you have in mind, right? But she then understood that, that giving me any type of money should be a praise. It should be something that she's happy to do. It should be something that she is more thrilled to do, because this adds to what she desires anyways. Because her giving her money away to a white man or anybody else outside of this house, it doesn't benefit her directly and long term. It doesn't. It does. It There's no discounts there. You have to pay exactly what you have to pay. No differently than if you had a rent that you have to pay. You don't get any of that money back. There's no appreciation to your money when you invest in someone else's mortgage. You don't get that. But when you're dealing with your man, when you're dealing with your dominant, when you're dealing with your husband, when you're dealing with the one who looks over you, you should be proud to give him that. It's the social programming that has convinced you that you should feel some type of way about giving that person that money. It's not necessarily you, because if if someone were to break it down to you as a woman, I'm talking to the women, if someone were to break it down to you as a woman and say, look, this is the benefits of giving me the money versus anybody else, because these are the benefits, they probably would understand it a whole lot more. And I think men should charge to do that. I mean, because this is no different than any of the other structures, what they would do in order to obtain and maintain you as a customer. They tell you what the benefits are for giving them the money for their services. Why can't you? Right? We have to reprogram our women to understand that we are what you need, right? We are what you desire. It's just that you have to meet our rules in order to get to that. And I'm telling you now that what you have to give up isn't worth what I'm giving you. So you're getting a deal. But anyways, I said I was gonna keep it short, but we're here. We're at the hour mark. So if you guys don't got any more questions, I don't see any questions. Um, but that's been my show. Hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, this has been the Wolf and Beta Close. May you have a good